Started. First of all, I want to give a shout out to everybody who came in early. As always, make sure that you subscribe if this is your first time here. It is definitely worth it. Anybody in the chat section will tell you. Every time if we cover a topic, it's because it's necessary to cover, and you're always going to get a new nugget out of us here at the MCSC network. Make sure you subscribe to us on Roku television as well. We are the first independent news network on Roku. And this week we will be having our videos back up on Roku, or we will be updating our Roku channel. So make sure you go and check out the Roku TV channel, MCSC network. Other than that, I do want to go ahead and get started. I just would ask if you would share this video, share it, and tell people to tune in. And of course, as always, if you want your comment to be read out loud for here, for Roku, and for JustNForm.com, make sure that you drop a super chat. And of course, if you don't want to drop super chat, you can always donate to the network at www.patreon.com/mikasa. And of course, that link is always in the description below. So in case you didn't know, Adam Schiff has tried to ramp up Russiagate again. Now, it's been a while since we've covered Russiagate on this channel because, well, to be quite honest, most of Russiagate actually was dying down, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing that Russiagate was dying down because what did Van Jones call it? It's a nothing burger, essentially. It was an excuse that was used by Hillary Clinton to try and justify or make an excuse for her burning through $1 billion, essentially $900 million she spent campaigning, which is kind of weird that she spent $900 million campaigning, but actually didn't really go anywhere. She failed to campaign in key swing states, and that's probably why she lost. On top of the fact that she's one of the most unpopular candidates in the history of the United States of America, and that has got to be pretty hard because there were presidents who were around during slavery, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them were unpopular also. Lyndon B. Johnson's a pretty unpopular guy as well. Donald Trump is pretty unpopular. He's popular, but in a different way. But the general consensus amongst Americans is that he's unpopular. The only person that was more unpopular than Donald Trump was Hillary Clinton. So that says a lot. It says a lot for her. Russia wasn't the reason she lost. From what we know right now, some companies that have Russian backgrounds spent like $4,000 on memes that weren't even targeting Hillary Clinton or bolstering Donald Trump. They were just memes because the tech industry is booming in Russia right now, and memeing and that's just kind of part of what tech industries or what tech companies do now. Creating memes is a legitimate job for people, in case you didn't know. But they weren't Kremlin backed. They were never able to make this connection. And I want to be very clear that my theory is that Hillary Clinton and the establishment deployed a Machiavellian tactic. Essentially, you blame your enemies of what you were guilty of. And if anybody knows anything about Hillary Clinton, she was absolutely guilty of Uranium One. Eric Holder was a part of that deal. Former Attorney General, was under the Obama administration, was a U.S. attorney under the Clinton administration. Very close with that entire establishment. Eric Holder was part of that deal, helped push it through. Barack Obama was a part of that deal, helped push it through. Essentially, what an FBI agent who was undercover and was tapped said when he was finally asked, well, why were these Russians so confident that the Uranium One deal would be pushed through? Guess what he said? They said they know that they're going to get the deal pushed through because Hillary Clinton is Secretary of State and she will make sure that it happens. So if Russia was to benefit from anyone being president of the United States right now, I think most of us could agree, based on the information that we have available to us, it would be Hillary Clinton. Because they did directly and immediately benefit from her being merely a Secretary of State. So imagine what the oligarchs of Russia would have And given depending on who it wins in the establishment wing, could possibly still do if Hillary Clinton or another establishment candidate would have been president. Hillary Clinton was unique, though, in her threat to our democracy and our economy and to having foreign involvement in our government, because she was the most connected via the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation, good God, it was, if you ever want to see quid pro quo or pay to play, that was it. And it was almost out in the open. Almost nobody did anything about it. And the Clinton Foundation was under investigation during the elections in 2016. However, James Comey made it a point to make sure that people did not know that the Clinton Foundation was under investigation because of their pay for play, because of other countries' foreign leaders, foreign oligarchs paying Clinton for favors. Even though she was asked by Obama to disband the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, she did not do so. And she still refused to do so while running for president. So it makes me highly skeptical to believe that she would actually have disbanded it if she would have been president. In my opinion, it's more likely that she would have expanded the Clinton Global Initiative. She would not have cut it back. So, that's just a little background information for those of you who do not know what's going on with Russiagate or have kind of been out of the loop. But sorry for people who are saying that it didn't show up in your feed. I can kind of tell that the video didn't show up in a lot of people's feeds because at this point we tend to have 40, 50 people watching. But it's part of the YouTube. What can we say, right? Working with what we got. So I want to read to you this article that just released from Congress, where the title is Adam Schiff hiring a full-time team to investigate Trump's Russian connections. The House Intelligence Committee chairperson Adam Schiff is sinking panel resources into a robust investigative staff to revive the probe into President Donald Trump's ties. Did you hear that? Revive. As in, they were dead, and they were dead for a reason. You had entire teams, FBI, Robert Mueller's special counsel team and special investigative team. You had all these people, including the House Intelligence Committee, investing resources into finding these connections that were non-existent. And they died. There was no connections. And in fact, the more they investigated, the more they found out that it wasn't actually Trump who was connected. It was Clinton. And for those of you who may be curious, I am in no way, form, or fashion a Trump supporter. And the Trump supporters on this channel can tell you that I am not a Trump supporter. But I am a seeker of truth and fact. And the fact of the matter is, Russiagate was merely an excuse. And it was meant to be hung over progressive and hyper-conservative candidates alike in order to make sure that they stay in line. Very similar to how the McCarthyist era made it so that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Angela Davis were considered communists. Anytime that you were pro-black at the time, and that's not just for people who are in the States, Maurice Bishop was considered a communist. Nelson Mandela was considered a communist. You start to see a pattern that if you were pro-black, you were considered a communist. So anybody who was pro-progressive issues, you will be considered a Russian bot or Russian troll. I'm sure many of you listening right now have experienced that. But let's continue. He's reviving that probe into President Donald Trump's ties with Russia, with roughly 7 committee staffers directing their full-time energy. Schiff and the Democrats have made offers to 6 new staffers, CBS reported, including a corruption expert and a former prosecutor. The committee is still looking to hire 6 more people to as Schiff restructures the subcommittee and plans targeted lines of inquiry into the president and 2016 campaign staff connections with Russian officials. It's interesting because Remember what I said? How they said that Manafort got caught, therefore everybody in the Trump campaign is going down. Oh, Donald Trump Jr. is going down. Donald Trump Jr. isn't the smartest. He's not the brightest bulb in the box, right? Okay, we get that, but he wasn't committing a conspiracy to rig the United States election, nor was he part of one. Because he would have accidentally slipped up by now. Like, to be honest with you, that's what I believe. But let's continue. The Democrats on the committee, will more than double their staff from 11 to 24 people. About 7 will work on the resuscitated Russia probe, while others will help out on a surge basis, according to CBS, citing a senior committee official. It's funny, someone on Twitter, or maybe I saw it in the super chat, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on Twitter, where someone said, the first thing I thought when I read this is that somebody's trying to launder money. And that sounds about right. That's pretty much par for the course. One of the senior committee officials said that there's a lot of work yet to be done on Russia. No, there isn't. There's literally nothing. But I'm explaining to you why this is about to happen. And some of you who may have been watching this channel for a while will know exactly what I'm about to say, because I've said it multiple times over the last 2 years. He goes on to say, what we're doing is we are creating a purpose-built team that will take the point on that. I thought that the Robert Mueller was the purpose-built team for that. I thought that's what he was brought there for, but he can't do his job, so 15 other people have to be hired to do the job of Robert Mueller and his team, and the FBI and their team, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's what they do. They investigate shit, and they couldn't find anything. Robert Mueller was brought there to be a special investigator. He couldn't find anything, but I'm sure that Adam Schiff and his team will do a much better job wasting taxpayer dollars. Anyway, let's continue. Ranking member Devin Nunes of California shelved the committee's Russia probe last spring and issued a final report saying that his investigators found no evidence of collusion between Trump's campaign and the Russians. Republicans also questioned the intelligence community's analytic tradecraft, I don't know what that means, that led to its assessment that Russian President Vladimir Putin took steps to help Trump defeat Hillary Clinton in 2016. Democrats quickly cobbled together a counter memo objecting to Republicans' conclusions from the investigation. I don't know if you remember that memo. It was a bunch of redactions, and it didn't really address anything, and it was kind of silly. But anyway, let's continue. Now, in the majority, Schiff has the resources to address one of his long-standing gripes, the size and specialization of his staff. At the Council of Foreign Relations last February, Schiff said that he envied the special counsel's team Robert S. Mueller had assembled, and the wide-ranging investigative instruments it had at its disposal. And yet, that's kind of a self-defeating claim, because Robert Mueller had a team and a wide-ranging amount of investigative instruments at his disposal, and he didn't find anything. He didn't find anything. Now, why do I think that this investigation was reopened up, is being relitigated? One of the reasons, of course, because the Democrats have majority, right? That's one of the reasons. Now, why am I saying that? Because let's be very clear about something. If Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had it her way, the Democrats would get a lot done with the House majority. They would. It's true. Hell, even if Ro Khanna, and like I said, I believe that he's a progressive careerist, but he knows where his bread is buttered, and even if he had it his way, the Democrats would get a lot more done. If Tulsi Gabbard had it her way, the Democrats would get a lot more done. However, progressives don't control Congress, and neither of them are naive to that. And the establishment is very aware of that, and they want it that way, because the establishment is going to do what it's continued to do for the last 2.5 years. They're going to do nothing and continue to resist. Even though they have the majority, it is still going to be about resisting. And that is why they're going to probably, well, If Bernie Sanders wins the primary, if Tulsi Gabbard wins the primary, they'll get the House back. They'll get the House back. Because we do want to see Bernie Sanders become successful. We want to see Tulsi Gabbard be successful in their presidential runs. So, and if they win, they know where they're going to have to shift next, which is to the left, like Beyonce. They're aware of that. So they'll win the House back if Bernie Sanders, but if they don't, if they cheat Bernie Sanders again, which they probably will, I'm not naive to that. I have no disillusions in that regard. If Tulsi loses, if Bernie Sanders loses, they will lose the House because they are not going to do anything. They're not. Here's the thing. They know they're not going to do anything. So what do you do for the next, year and a half, pretty much? Because basically next year is going to be spent campaigning. Next year is going to be spent campaigning. So basically the next year, what do you do in the House to show that, you're not completely useless? You bring back up an old investigation that has already been litigated multiple times and already been revamped multiple times with all kinds of threats and promises coming from Robert Mueller, all kinds of threats and promises coming from James Comey, all kinds of threats and promises coming from Andrew McCabe, all kinds of threats and promises coming from Adam Schiff, all kinds of threats and promises coming from Nancy Pelosi, all kinds of threats and promises coming from the House Intelligence Committee, all kinds of threats and promises coming from Chuck Schumer. Threats, promises. We're this close. We're almost. We got Manafort. We're this close. Donald Jr. made a tweet. We're this close. Bro, how much closeness can you have before you ever cross the finish line? Like, how close can you be to the finish line without passing it? This is basically like the presidential version or the electoral version of a filibuster. Like, they're wasting our time. But they're like filibustering themselves. Oh, sorry guys, we're too wrapped up in the Russiagate investigation. We've spent all our money on the Russiagate investigation. We have all of our resources invested in the Russiagate investigation, so therefore we can't do anything. Sorry, we tried. What about that Green New Deal? Well, sorry, we got to investigate Russia. Russia's a threat to the Green New Deal, so we have to make sure it's investigated. It's ridiculous. Now, the second thing that they're doing is what I said that they were going to do from the very beginning. Remember when Russiagate first launched, whenever it first started, I have said on the record, you will see it get to high points where nothing will be done. They'll get a couple of people on nonsensical charges that have nothing to do with Russiagate. They'll pretend like those arrests or those prosecutions or those plea deals are meaningful. Then you will have a down period. And then what will indeed happen is that around 2019, so they're right on schedule, you will start to see a ramp up of the Russiagate investigation because they will use it for political gain and try to mire the entire 2020 election in Russiagate nonsense. I'm not just talking about against Donald Trump because there will be plenty of that, but what's new there? They will try and get Bernie Sanders to say nonsensical things on television to hurt him when it comes to his base. They will try and get Tulsi Gabbard to, because they know that she's going to speak out against it, but they're still going to try and get her to have a misstep when it comes to the Russiagate conversation on live debate stages. They will make, if there are 15 questions on that debate stage, 7 of them will in some way, form, or fashion have to do with Russiagate. And they are banking on candidates to sound even remotely like Donald Trump or Republicans so that they can go ahead and X them off the list of potential candidates in the 2020 Democratic primary election. This was always the plan. The Democrats have absolutely no desire, people. They have absolutely no desire whatsoever to get anything done in Congress. I get it. Some things can be vetoed. I get that. Trust me. I get it. They don't have the Senate necessarily. I get it. I got it. But at the same time, you do have the House. And getting bills, there's something to be said for getting bills first, well researched, which you have staffers for. You get them crafted. You get them organized. You put them together. You push it through committee, right? You push it through the House. Hopefully it gets passed because you're all Democrats. Yes, when it gets to the Senate, there is a good chance that something will get killed. Guess what? Now, however, you get to say, look at what the Democrats are doing versus what the Republicans are allowing us to do or not doing. Right? Then you get your House back with even perhaps more seats than you had before. The Democrats start creating a better image for themselves, which makes the 2020 Democratic candidate more likely to win because people perhaps want to see the policies the Democrats are introducing, if they're progressive policies that will benefit the totality. They see what the Democrats are doing. They like what the Democrats are doing. And they say, well, we need to allow these policies to get passed. Maybe we should start allowing more Democrats in the Senate again. Maybe we should just go ahead and vote the president that won't veto good bills. There is something to be said about starting your projects now because it is a project to introduce legislation in the House and the Senate, but specifically the House. It is not, I wrote a bill, here you go. It is a process. I'm talking about from the research. You got to go through think tanks, make sure your research is correct. You got to, you have to get it through committee. You have to and you got to make sure that the right people are on the committee to get through the committee. You have to get enough media push for a really, really good bill, for like a Medicare for all, Green New Deal type of bill. You know, when Tulsi Gabbard introduced the Stop Arming Terrorists Act, it didn't get enough coverage, which is why America didn't know about it. Because otherwise, people would be pissed to find out that the Democrats and the Republicans, the Republicans who are always trying to fight terrorism, weren't about the Stop Arming Terrorists Act because she didn't get enough media push. So it is a project to introduce legislation like that. But guess what? Now that Tulsi has that legislation crafted, now that she has election justice legislation already crafted, guess what she can introduce whenever they take the Senate back? Guess what she has ready for the House of Representatives if she wins the presidency? Guess what she has ready for the House of Representatives if she's back in the House and Bernie Sanders wins the presidency? Or maybe she becomes VP and can send legislation to the floor for, they can do things. I hate when people say, oh, they can't get anything done because they don't have the Senate. They don't have the White House. They don't have the judicial. I don't care. They can get things done. The problem is they have to continuously push nonsense like this nonsensical Russiagate. They have to waste our taxpayer dollars and our resources on nonsense like this. Adam Schiff, I'm looking at you. Because they know they are not going to even try and get any progressive policies passed. They are not going to try and get a Green New Deal done, no matter how much establishment Democrats pretend to care about the environment. They have no intention on legitimately standing up to Donald Trump when it comes to certain disastrous trade policies or certain disastrous foreign relation policies, because they have no desire to get anything done. They are not going to attack Trump from the left on Syria, but instead will attack Trump from the right on Syria. They are not going to speak up for Palestinians, but instead they will align themselves with pro-Israeli lobbyists. They will not call out Saudi Arabia. They will bend over to Saudi Arabia just like Trump and the Republicans do. They have no intention, they're pretending to be progressive on some issues, but on the in the grand scheme, they don't care. And that's what this Russiagate nonsense is really about. It is about reviving something that casual observers can be hysterical about, that the news can grab onto and eat up. Well, dish it out so that the sheep can eat it up. So that you don't have time to cover the substantive conversations. That's what this is about. I'd be interested to know what you all think about this legislation. So make sure that you subscribe if you have not. Share this video. Share. Donate to our Patreon, our network's Patreon. And go watch the other videos we dropped today. We dropped one about Candace Owens challenging Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to a debate. We dropped one about Tulsi Gabbard being, essentially, she was threatened by Israeli lobbying group. And the threat was headed by Jacob Wall. And also, what's the other video we dropped today? Oh, Kamala Harris, about the innocent man she kept in jail. I go into great detail about that situation as well, and that is definitely worth a share because a lot of people, we still have to wake the word up to what Kamala Harris really is, especially because she went on the Tonight Show and pretty much tried to pretend to be black for 30 minutes. So thank you all so much for tuning in to this segment of Mikasa Sukasa. And hey, more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.